Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Let's try and see 300 likes on today's video. And please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. Get involved. On the show today, we're going to be talking about the plan for the January transfer window. We're going to be talking about whether Casemiro, Varane, a couple of these types of people who have been... there's been stories saying that they might be leaving, but we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about Manchester United's pursuit for a shock French centre-back, and it is not Jean-Claire Todibo. Very, very interesting story to get into on that one. Lots of other bits to talk about as well. As always, get involved in the comment section, get involved in the live chat. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. Okay, all right, let's start off with the director of football situation. So obviously, as everyone knows, John Murtough, Richard Arnold have been given the boot. They're going. Jim Ratcliffe hasn't even taken the job yet. He hasn't even taken over the club officially yet, and he's already getting rid of people. And that's what I like to see, Now, I'm not going into this naively. I'm not going into this with my eyes shut. I'm still very, very cautious about this new future under Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers. But I think from what I've seen so far, I think it's moving in the right direction, okay? There's still a very, very long way to go. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot that needs to happen. But for the time being, John Murtough going, Richard Arnold going, I think that's good. But, there is a but. It's what happens after that. That's the most important thing for me here. It's who they bring in to replace these two people. Now, it looks like Richard Arnold's going to be replaced by Jean-Claude Blanc, who I think is perfect for the job. Obviously, used to be the CEO at PSG, used to be the CEO at Juventus, has been working very, very... very hard on the Tour de France over the last couple of years. He's at the very top of sporting across all different sports. So I think he definitely is the right man for the job. Now, moving on to the director of football situation. This one I'm a little bit more unsure about because Paul Mitchell for me is the man for the job. It has to be Paul Mitchell. The only other person I can think of who I think maybe deserves a bit of a shout is Michael Edwards, obviously the old Liverpool director of football. And he is a very, very good director of football, Michael Edwards, and he's available as well. So Paul Mitchell and Michael Edwards, for me, are the two people that we should be considering. But we've had a story coming out this morning saying that Crystal Palace sporting director Dougie Freedman is now a genuine contender to join Manchester United's new look recruitment team. Other names are also being considered. I'm really not sure about this guy. I just don't think that Crystal Palace's recruitment is that inspirational. If you look at this guy's best ever recruitments, okay, it's Gaya, the centre-back, who's a good player. Elise, again, he's a good player, fair enough. Eze, another good player. And that's kind of it, to be honest with you. And he's been there for quite a long time, and I just don't really think it's the level of Manchester United. I think Paul Mitchell's obviously been at Tottenham. He's been at... he was at Red Bull Leipzig. He's been at some. He was at Southampton at the beginning. He's been at some really, really big clubs. I just don't think Crystal Palace are the same level as what we need. Maybe this Dougie Freedman guy comes in and does an incredible job. I don't want to completely slander his name, but I just don't think he's really Manchester United level for me personally. He's been there since 2017, so he's been there for 6 years. Before that, he was the manager at Nottingham Forest, which only lasted a year. It didn't go very well. And before that, he was the manager at Bolton. So that's kind of his career in football. He was a manager. It didn't really work out. He became the director of football at Crystal Palace. And that's kind of as far as he's gone. Whereas you look at Paul Mitchell's CV and it's like, he's been a director of football for 10, 15 years. He's got a lot more experience. I think he knows the market a lot better than this Dougie Freedman guy. I think Dougie Freedman would be looking at more like the Championship, which is cool. I'm into that. Whereas if you look at Paul Mitchell, right? He started his career off at MK Dons, then went over to Southampton, then to Tottenham, then to Red Bull Leipzig, then to New York Red Bulls, and then to Monaco. So he's had a very, very good career. And he's discovered some really, really good players. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure about this Dougie Freedman guy. If anybody in the chat disagrees, please let me know in the comment section. Let me know who your preferred director of football is, because I always do like to see what you guys have to say. As well, let me know what the video quality is like today. I've done a bit of editing on the video to make it look a bit better. So let me know in the live chat and in the comment section. Does the quality of the video look better than it usually does? Hopefully you all say yes, because I spent quite a long time fiddling with it, trying to get it to work. Let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Scott says, is it true that Fergie's coming back? I don't think he's coming back as in going to be a manager. He's just going to be somebody who Jim Ratcliffe can bounce ideas off. He's going to kind of advise him, which I think is good. But at the same time, Sir Alex is obviously the greatest football manager of all time, isn't he? But I don't know how. I don't know what Sir Alex's knowledge is of the wider football world in today's market. You know, is he going to be leaning on him for ways to reconnect with the fans? Maybe. Is he going to be leaning on him for transfers? I don't know. We don't know exactly what he wants from Sir Alex Ferguson at the moment. I mean, the guy's 81 years old. You know, I do feel a little bit like Jim Ratcliffe should just do it himself in some ways. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a Jim Ratcliffe trying to play on the Manchester United fans' heartstrings. You know, if Sir Alex Ferguson endorses Jim Ratcliffe, then it kind of wins us over in a weird way. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I'm coming across here? I know it sounds maybe a little bit strange, but we all trust Sir Alex Ferguson. We all love Sir Alex Ferguson. He's the greatest manager of all time. He's brought us so many happy memories. If Jim Ratcliffe is actively, you know, almost partnering up with Sir Alex, I think you'll automatically start to like Jim Ratcliffe more, because you'll say, well, if Sir Alex trusts him, then I trust him. You know what I mean? It's like a trust thing, isn't it? We all trust Sir Alex. We love Sir Alex. He's the greatest, right? And if he kind of, like partners with, or, you know, has some sort of relationship with Jim Ratcliffe, I don't know. I just think it's a little bit strange. Everyone says, yes, the quality is much better. Matt says, the video is much sharper. Sharper? The video is much sharper. You now look less like Amrabat. There you go then. At least I've achieved something on today's video. But yeah, so I'm not really too sure about that. We'll obviously hopefully get more news about what this kind of relationship will involve. I imagine he'll just be some sort of advisor. Obviously, he's already on the board at the moment, isn't he? So we'll have to wait and see. Jim says Dougie Freedman failed as the Bolton manager's manager. Not for me. Yeah, that's the thing, mate. I'll be honest with you, right? Until yesterday, I'd never even heard of this guy. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know everything about football, because I don't, okay? I'm not going to ever try and make out that I'm this almighty being that knows everything about football. I know a lot about some stuff and not so much about others. Obviously, Paul Mitchell, Jean-Claude Blanc, I'd heard of them already. But this Dougie Freedman guy, I'd never really heard of. And when you're looking for the signings that he's made, you know, his best ever signings, in the last 7 years, there's been like 3 players, 3 notable names, and it was like Gaya, Elise, Eze, and that's kind of it. I mean, those are 3 good players though, you know, so fair play to him, but yeah, I'm not too sure for me. Comeback King says, I think we're downgrading by doing that. Fair enough. Liam says Paul Mitchell is the number 1 target for Sir Jim. The media has to put out names, but make no mistake, Paul Mitchell, ladies and gents. I agree with you, mate. I think that the thing is, right, this story about Dougie Freedman, let me just bring this into the show. It's coming from English journalists, and you always know that the English journalists always try and push those types of names, don't they? Obviously, you always have to wonder what their relationship is when they put out these types of stories, don't they? Obviously, Paul Mitchell is English as well, but he's worked a lot with, you know, he's been out of England for a long time. His last English club was Tottenham, whereas Dougie Freedman is already working at Crystal Palace. You know, it's like, I just wonder a lot of the time, are these journalists not getting paid to put the stories out, but, you know, do they have some sort of agenda where they're pushing to get this person the job when really maybe he's not even in the consideration? That's the thing we always have to be, you know, aware of. Scott says Paul Mitchell for me as well. Ranjit says Maldini is the next manager. Any truth? I mean, I have never heard anything about Maldini being the next manager. That would be bizarre. Okay, there is something about Maldini. Let me just have a look at it. So the headline on Sky Sports this morning is Maldini set for Manchester United role in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's shake-up. It says Paolo Maldini is being lined up for a shock move to Manchester United as part of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's huge shake-up of the club, it's being claimed. I mean, what does that even mean? I'm doing what? I hate it when people put out these types of stories, right? And it's like, Maldini's coming to Manchester United. To do what? I mean, okay. All right. Okay, there we go. I've got the answer. So it says Jim Ratcliffe is now considering making a move for AC Milan legend Maldini to become the next Manchester United sporting director. So this story broke this morning. I don't know about that again. I just think of Maldini as a footballer. I don't really know him in a sporting director capacity at the moment. Let me have a look. Let me have a look at what he's done so far, because I honestly, Obviously, he's one of the greatest centre-backs of all time. He is, Maldini. Unbelievable player. But from a sporting director perspective, like, I assume he was the sporting director at AC Milan, right? I'm just trying to find out a bit of information on this. But yeah, I had not seen that. So thank you to whoever brought that up in the chat. Okay, let's have a look. So, Maldini. So he was the director of development and then the technical director. So he's been in these kind of roles at AC Milan since 2018. I'm not sure about that one, to be honest. I think that's just another name being linked to Manchester United to get clicks and to get, people to buy their newspapers. Maldini as the United sporting director, I just don't think it makes sense to me. Whereas Paul Mitchell, right, whether this means anything to you or not is up to you. But Paul Mitchell, Manchester United fan, born in Manchester, has worked wonders with Southampton, worked wonders with Tottenham, done an incredible job at Monaco, incredible job at Red Bull Leipzig. Like, he's got a much wider range of experience and he already has that direct link to Manchester United, whereas Maldini just sounds random to me. So yeah, anybody asking about that bit, apparently they're considering him as the director of football. It's a no from me. Like, definitely not. But let me know in the comment section, guys. Maybe you want to, maybe you would like to see Maldini as the next director of football. Al says Mark Overmars is as good as is Ralph Ragnick and Marina, the former Chelsea transfer specialist, are excellent sporting directors. Yeah, the thing is, obviously Ralph Ragnick is the Austria manager at the moment, and Mark Overmars, I think, was there not some sort of scandal with Mark Overmars? Let me just double check. I feel like there was. Yeah, I mean, it says here, Mark Overmars gets 1 year. Yeah. So it says Mark Overmars gets 1 year suspension in the Netherlands for inappropriate messages to female colleagues. Manchester United wouldn't go anywhere near that. I do remember that happening at the time. I don't know exactly what he was saying, but he was, as the story says, he was sending inappropriate messages to female colleagues. So he's effectively banned from football for the next year, Mark Overmars. There is no way on earth Manchester United, after the Mason Greenwood situation, the Anthony situation, all these other situations going on outside of football to do with women, there is no way on earth that they'd bring in somebody who's been found guilty of inappropriate behaviour towards women. So Mark Overmars will 100% not happen. I can tell you that for a fact. I think it would be an absolute shock if that happened. It's a good suggestion, though. He did well at Ajax, obviously, but they're not going to touch him if he's got these well, it's not even allegations. It's been proved. He's received a ban for it. Let's have a look. Chris says Ragnick would be my top choice. Somebody says no to Mark Overmars. We've had enough with all of this off the field stuff. I agree. Somebody else says, Kieran, there is a stronger candidate than Mitchell. Andreas something is the guy. Not sure who that is, mate. If you let me know, I'll have a look. But I don't know who you're talking about. Scott says we should find. That's the best comment. Scott says we should get Fabrizio Romano to find players for us. That would be good, wouldn't it? That would be good. Paul says he's only banned from Dutch football. Yeah, but mate, come on. Do you really think Manchester United would bring him in? Subshock says Overmars will go to Getafe. I mean, yeah, probably. Anyway, let's move on with the rest of the show. Let's talk about Casemiro, shall we? Obviously, we spoke about Casemiro a lot over the last couple of weeks. There's seems to be something wrong with him. He's now obviously injured until January, which everybody thought was a bit of a coincidence. But the headline coming out this evening, or this evening, last night, is that apparently Casemiro does not want to leave Manchester United for Saudi Arabia in January. So I think Casemiro will stay in January. I think in the summer would probably be more realistic for Casemiro to leave. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. If a big offer comes in from Saudi, maybe he does agree to go. But at this point, from what we're hearing today, Casemiro's priority is to stay at Manchester United at least until the summer and then maybe reevaluate his options, which I think is probably the right decision. I think losing Casemiro halfway through the season, unless you can guarantee to bring in a world-class replacement, which knowing Manchester United, we probably won't, I kind of agree that you should wait until the summer. When you've got a couple of months to really, really work out what you're going to do, what the philosophy is going to be. So yeah, I think that makes the most sense to me. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think Casemiro will go in the January transfer window? Or do you think that maybe he'll stay until the summer? Or maybe you think he'll stay beyond the summer? Let me know what you guys think. The key thing you guys have to remember with this is that he was on a 4-year deal. So he effectively will be a Manchester United player until 2026. So if he left in the summer, he would have about 2 years left on his deal. That would be the perfect time to sell him if you're going to sell him. You'd have had 2 whole years out of him, and then you sell him with 2 years left on his contract, which ultimately means you retain his value. You could probably still get 40 million, I reckon, for him, maybe 50, depending on which Saudi club it was. Obviously, we paid 70 million for him, which I'll be honest with you, at the time, I thought was quite good, but 70 million, I think, is quite a lot. He was very good last season, but I think, as these players start to get older, it doesn't happen to everybody, but you look at the Ericssons, you look at Casemiros, you look at Varans, you look at, these older players in our squad, they all seem to be getting injured now. They all seem to be not able to play, 2-3 games a week. Their engine ultimately goes inside them, and they have to be handled in a different way. Whereas I think Erik ten Hag needs a squad of young players who are hungry and can play 2-3 times a week without any complaints. Let's have a look what else people are saying in the chat. The Unlimited says Casemiro should be the captain. I mean, he's our best midfielder. There's no doubt about that. 100%. Casemiro is an unbelievable midfielder. I think the question is here, though, is what is the plan for the future? Casemiro isn't the future. He's the now. That's the black and white of this situation. Casemiro works now, but in 2 years, he'll be 33, 34 and have a year left on his contract. And Manchester United won't give him a new contract when he's, 34, 35. That won't happen. So you do have to be considerate about this. And you have to think that hopefully Manchester United had some sort of exit plan where they said, we'll keep him for 2 or 3 years. They'll rake in all the money from shirt sponsorships. They'll rake in all the money from brand deals and all the rest of it. And then in a couple of years' time, they'll let him go to Saudi for a big transfer fee. And I think if that does happen, I'll look at it and say, that was a good bit of business. We got 2 good years out of him and we sold him for 50 million, say. I would be happy with that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Everyone who's just joined, please do smash a like on the video if you haven't already. And please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. We're on the road to 21,000 subscribers. We're only about 100 away, so let's see how quickly we can hit that. Please go and subscribe now if you haven't already, and make sure to like the video. Right, let's crack on with the rest of the show. Let's talk about the January transfer window, though, because I know a lot of you are really, really, really hoping that there's money to spend, me included. So the headline coming out this morning from Sky Sports News is this. It says Manchester United are unlucky. I mean, we are a bit, aren't we? It says Manchester United are unlikely to spend big in January, with Sir Dave Brailsford carrying out an audit of the club's operations and transfer business. Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos are aiming to have a big say in how Manchester United are run before the transfer window opens in January, with Brailsford having a key role in the process. So it looks like at the moment they're already starting to leak these stories that there's not going to be any money in January. It's going to be a sell to buy, financial fair play this, financial fair play that. So we've just got to brace ourselves. I think next summer is the one where we really, really can judge Sir Jim, Paul Mitchell, Jean-Claude Blanc, Sir Dave Brailsford, whoever it is who's running the sporting side of the club. That will be their opportunity to impress us. That's when they need to, address the Maguire situation, McTominay, Donny van de Beek, Anthony Martial, Casemiro, Varane. There's probably, even Anthony, there's probably 7 or 8 players who are in and around the first team squad who should either go, should probably go realistically, or go out on loan. And then there's people like Ahmad, Pellistri, Kobe Mainu, Hannibal, who I think are the future of Manchester United, but maybe aren't quite ready to start every single game. What happens to them? Do they go out on loan to a big Premier League side? There's a lot of planning that needs to happen. And then after all of that's done, after you've worked out the futures of about 10 to 15 players in this current squad, you then have to then bring in new players. And you have to decide what your philosophy is going to be for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I don't think a lot of that can really happen in January. It's too quick. And in some ways, if there is a proper plan in place, as long as we get a centre-back and maybe a striker on loan, I think I would be happy with that in January. I would be a little bit concerned if in January we just went out and bought 3 £70 million players and we just splashed loads of money on random people, because to me that would be similar to what the Glazers would used to do. They just buy random people that didn't make any sense and clearly would have no plan. I think it needs to be a very, very careful January transfer window. I think we need to obviously get a centre-back, which we'll talk about in a minute, but we also need to get a striker on loan just to take a bit of the pressure off Rasmus Højlund, whether it's Taremi for 10 million from Porto, whether it's Santiago Jimenez from Feyenoord. Maybe you could do an option where we loan him for the rest of the season and buy him in the summer. There's lots of players out there, but we need to be clever in January. I think that I mean, as well, I'm not trying to be negative this morning, but you never know whether Erik ten Hag will even be here at the end of the season. Obviously, I hope he is. I think he's the right man for the job. I would give him another 2 years before we start really, really being critical about him. I mean, Arteta got 4 years. Within the first year of Arteta's reign, the Arsenal fans were printing Arteta out t-shirts and they were all screaming for Arteta to be sacked. Now they tell us he's the best manager in the world. Do you see what I mean? So we have to be aware of this, that it takes time to rebuild a club. And I think, calling for a manager to be sacked after a year and a half is just a little bit, it's just what we've done for the last 10 years and it hasn't worked. So we need to change things. So for me, you give him 3 or 4 years, but just playing devil's advocate, knowing how the football world works, if we lose the next 8 out of 10 games, he'll probably be sacked. And what happens then if in the January window you've got a caretaker manager and you don't, I think it's going to take a long time for them to really identify what the style of play is and then to look through the playing squad and decide from the squad of players we have, which of those players will work and which of those players won't work. And in some ways, I would rather they take their time about it. Let's have a look what else people are saying. Raul says they screwed us over, both Ratcliffe and the Glazers, virtually no investment, no intention of 100% sale. And sorry, but Joel Glazer will be on the football side, meaning everything will go through him. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, mate, at the moment, I'm trying to stay a little bit positive about it, but I get it. It is worrying. But yeah, there's not really too much we can do at this moment in time. Jim says Taremi is too old. We should stay away from another aging player. I agree, a 31-year-old is not that appealing, but it's just whether you could get him on a cheap deal just until the summer, maybe on a loan. I think that's what you need to look at in the January window, because there's no way on earth that in the space of 4 weeks they can work out what their philosophy is. We don't even know who the director of football is. We don't know who the CEO is. We don't even know officially that Jim Ratcliffe's bought a stake in the club yet. And for us to be expecting 3, 4, 5, 6 signings in the January window when we don't even know what our philosophy is going to be, that sounds more like what the Glazers would do. So I think we need to be a little bit more, pragmatic and a little bit more careful about it, really, and just make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that we have before. Right, one more thing to talk about quickly before we wrap up the video, and that is about a centre-back. Now, I think a centre-back will happen in the summer. In the January window. Obviously, we've spoke at length about Jean-Claire Todibo, who's someone I really, really like. But there is another name that's been thrown into the mix today, and it is a little bit of a shock to me because it's not somebody who I'd heard of, I'll be honest, before today. This is coming out from Sport Bild, which is obviously very, very good German outlet. And they're reporting this morning that Manchester United are now interested in signing Leipzig centre-back Castello Luquiba, who joined the club from Lyon in the summer. Now, this guy looks really, really good. I did a couple of hours of research on this player when this story broke. I think it was late last night. 20 years of age, already in the French national team. Looks like a really, really, really good player. Very strong, very fast, very physical. I think he would be perfect. I really, really do. Now, he did just join Red Bull Leipzig, so he's got 5 years left on his contract. He came through the Lyon Youth Academy. He's already made his French debut, which is pretty mad at the age of 20 years. At the age of 20, he made it last month. So I would be interested in this guy. If anybody wants to look him up, he's called Castello Luqueba. I'm not sure if I've said that right, but yeah, I think he's one of those who's going to go on to be a very, very good centre-back in the next kind of 3 to 5 years. Only 20 years of age, as I said, very fast, very strong, 6 foot. So he's tall enough. I think he would be the right man. Maybe not as good as Jean-Claire Todibo at this moment in time, but again, I think he has a very high ceiling. The thing is with these young players is, right, there's no guarantee that they come in and do well. They might live up to expectations, they might not. And that's just what we have to be realistic about. We can't, not every signing's going to work. Pep Guardiola's made some signings that have not worked, so we just have to be realistic and we have to be patient with these young players because you're not always going to get it right. And that's just how football is. If you could get every single transfer right, then it just wouldn't be realistic, would it? So yeah, but I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me on the show this morning. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video, give it the thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. I will be back. Will I be back this evening? I'll be live a little bit earlier this evening. I'll be live at about 5 o'clock. I'm going out this evening. So yeah, about 5 o'clock I'll be live. I'll see you all at 5 p.m. UK time. As I said, please like, please subscribe before you go, and I'll catch you all this evening. Have a lovely day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will speak to you a bit later.